Page 43, Highways. This is the last piece in the book. If you've made it this far, congratulations. This is great. If you have a teacher, that's wonderful. I hope you do have a teacher. You really need a teacher there to help you with your technique and stuff. If you don't have a teacher, then I would encourage you to go back through and go through the book again very carefully. Review everything again carefully. Go through all the lessons again carefully. You'll find you can play the pieces better, maybe a little faster, more easily, or less difficult, whichever. Please don't be in a hurry to go on to the next book. Take your time on this. It'll come. People ask me, how long is it going to take me to get to this book? And I say, there's no time. It's up to you on how long it takes, but why are you concerned about that book? Why don't you enjoy where you are now and just enjoy the trip? You see, in learning music, there is no destination. It's the trip, the whole experience. You gradually get better, you're trying other things and whatever. That's what's important. So go back through the book again and go through the lessons again and just make sure you got it all really well before you tackle the next book. However, so much for my rant. Let's talk about Highways and what they're up to. It is 4 lines long, or a whole page. Not saying a page has to be 4 lines long. I'm just saying in this book, the way it's printed, the 4 lines are taking up a whole page. Because sometimes, you know, when you get to really long pieces, you're not counting lines or measures, you're counting pages. How many pages is this long? Or I might say take it in sections, because music can be in sections. It's like you have chapters in a book. You can have sections in a piece of music, and we'll talk about that a little later. Right now, it's just one section in everything we're doing because they're so short. But it happens to be 4 lines long, and it happens to be 1 page. All right. I just want an overall idea of how long the thing is. Now I see treble and bass clef, a 4/4 time signature again. We got quarter notes and half notes and whole notes. Okay. The hands are playing together somewhat, so I'm going to take each hand one at a time, make sure I understand what each hand is doing before I try them together. Right hand, when it starts, you're starting here, and the only finger number you need is the first one. You cross out those other finger numbers. Please don't read finger numbers. You need to know the names of the notes and where they are and where your fingers are and the whole bit. So it's a mistake to read finger numbers. I did that when I was little. I don't want to bother with the notes. I'm just going to read the finger numbers. And that worked until I got to the point where the hand started moving around and the fingers were on different notes. Finger number didn't work anymore because my 5th finger might not be on a G anymore. It might be on some other note. So I had to actually figure out to read the notes. So I had to go back and learn to read the notes. I'm trying to get you not to do that. I want you to read the notes right from the beginning. So the right hand again, another rant. Here we go. Here. The coffee's kicking in. I can't help it. I'm in here. Quarter notes. 2, 3, 4, and then the left hand plays, and then the right hand plays. Let's go down to the 3rd line, half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Isn't this fun? Okay, so much for the right hand. Left hand, it starts here. Quarter notes, and a rest, and then a couple half notes, and then a whole note. 3rd line down, I see whole notes. Okay, we got whole notes. That's wonderful. We're doing great. Put the hands together. We're in middle C position, of course. These are together, and then here. These are together. And then, okay, go down to the 3rd line. I keep skipping the 2nd because it's almost the same as the 1st, almost. The 3rd line is here. 1, 2, these are together, and then these are together, and then these are together. I got whole notes in the left hand, I got to hold them down while I'm doing whatever in the right hand, okay? Then once I have the hands together, I go back through and I get rid of the hesitation so it's a steady beat. And when you get to a long piece, you don't necessarily have to go through the whole piece every time. You go to those spots in the piece where you're hesitating, where you're having problems, and you work on those spots. When you practice a piece of music, please don't always start at the beginning. That's a mistake. And a short piece, it may not matter. But when you're getting a really long piece, you don't always start at the beginning. And you can tell when somebody has done that. I've heard it time and again in recitals or when they're playing in public. They'll start a piece and they know it really well. They're playing great. It's really wonderful. And as they get into the piece, the further and further they get, the worse they get. Until finally they're hesitating and making mistakes and it's clear they don't know the piece. That's because they always practiced it starting at the beginning and going through it. The problem there is you don't always get through it. You only get partway through it. And then you go back and just try it again. And the end of the piece then doesn't get much practice. So when you're working out these hesitations and things, focus on those areas where you're hesitating and make sure you have those. Now, there are other techniques for practicing, and I'll share those with you as we go through the lessons. I don't want to share everything now. We'll be here forever, and I'll get bored, and you'll get bored, and everybody's bored, and nothing. So just for now, focus on the areas where you're having problems and work on those. Work them out. Then I think about the interpretation. I start with the natural accents again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll exaggerate them so you can hear them better. So you feel them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. You feel them. Don't force them. Something you feel the natural accents. And then I can think about the phrases. Well, I'm going to speed it up a little bit, the melody, and I'm just going to play the melody because I need to hear it. I'm leaving everything else out because I want to hear where the musical thoughts, the musical sentences are. So it's here. So it's like the first line was one thought, and that means the second line's probably one thought, and probably the third line and the fourth line. It's just working out that way. It doesn't have to, but it just seems to work out that way, that every 4 measures here seems to be a thought, a musical sentence. That's why I lift up. At the end of each line, before going on, I lift up like taking a breath is all. Now I can look at the words and look at the commas and see, do I want to lift up there? Here? But don't lift up at the end. This is just that comma is there for grammar purposes because this is the way the English language works. You know, but in the second measure, if you want to lift up there, I don't know. I mean, when I read the actual sentence, I would not put in a comma in that spot. I used to be a technical editor and have to edit this stuff out, and I would take that comma out because I'm not going to separate that prepositional phrase from the rest of the sentence in this case. It's all going to go together. So I think in this case, I'm going to ignore any of the commas in it, and I'm going to make each line one phrase. As far as how fast it goes, it depends on how much coffee I've had. That's one way of playing it. Another way, I might not want to play it that way. I'll play it some other way. Maybe I'll put in phrasing in the third and fourth lines. Your highways, high. Maybe I'll lift up there. Depends on you. Experiment. You try. Do I like it that way or not? One time you might play it one way. Another time you might play it another. Keep in mind, if I do decide to lift up for the half notes in the last 2 lines, I'm not lifting up in the left hand. I'm going to connect that. So it's here. So I'm going to lift up here, but I'm going to connect that. Lift lift up in one hand doesn't mean I'll lift up in the other. However, at the end of the phrases, for now, I am lifting up in both. We'll change that a little later, because even with phrases, sometimes I don't lift up in one hand. I only lift up in the melody. But right now, we're lifting up in both, right there. Just keep it in mind, though, that you don't have to all the time. Let's play it very slowly together and just double check the notes and the rhythms. As far as the phrasing goes, I'm only going to lift up at the end of the lines. So I'll give us 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 4. 2, 4. 2, 3, 4, off.